There are other videos about how to dump your sewage, but if you haven't seen one of those, we're newbies, so here's kind of where we are on the journey. First, come on in here. We've got a handy box of gloves that we keep tucked away here into the left area. And for our different hoses, we're not going to be filling up fresh water today, but for each of these, Amy found a really nice netted bag here, a Camco bag, that helps keep your bay, your garage, dry. But I'm going to pop these gloves on here, and I'm going to go ahead and get my dump hose ready. And I'm just going to first of all tell you the hose that I'm using today to flush, we will be replacing this. This is not the right hose for the job if you're wondering about the color, but more about that later. All right, the first thing I'm going to do here is to release the pin on my storage tube, and my hose is going to fall right out. So, Amy, what type of hose is this?
It's a flexible one, and I will get you the information.
I'm drawing a blank too as to its name. It was a special hose we bought, but the length was key. This actually does fit. I think this is this a 15 foot?
10 foot.
10 foot.
And we have the 45 elbow, not the 90.
The degree elbow on here.
And that fits in the tube.
Right. So let's take this over to our sewage tube. All right, we replaced the stock cap that was a little harder to turn. This has a handle on it and it is clear, even though there's some condensation. But by chance, we've heard stories of kids coming by campsites and as a prank, releasing, you know, either the black or gray tank, and you don't want to be welcomed by a surprise gush of whatever. So this serves two purposes. It's easier to grasp, and we can see if there is stuff in there waiting to come out. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this. This is going to twist onto these tabs underneath here, and you can feel it lock when you twist it. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and extend this hose to the sewage reservoir. All right, the next thing we want to show you is what's called the Camco Sidewinder. How do I know that's what it's called? Because that's the name on the actual handle to this thing. But it simply extends like an accordion if you're in an area that is unfortunately a bit messy. This will allow you to keep your hose, you know, elevated off of the dirty area. Now, the other thing that we have here is yet another attachment that it's going to help fit our nozzle here into the actual dump container. All right, so we have the flexible tube inside the reservoir ready to go. Amy's going to have to keep her foot on there so that this thing doesn't flop back up. I do want to show you another tool that sometimes you need. You know, in some areas you don't have this flip top. Instead you have a white cap that may be difficult to get off. This is basically a sewage cap wrench. This fits inside those different areas and allows you with some leverage to open those things. So this is nice to have. We picked this up also, I think, at Camping World. It's also made by Camco. It's called the Rhino. The Rhino. Okay, at this point you may be tempted to go ahead and release the lever for the black water, but what we really want to do is test this seal. I want to thank one of the members of the Coachmen Beyond Rally who was kind enough to help us with our very first dumping experience and taught us this little trick. And the idea is to release a little bit of your gray water first just to check this seal. You know, if we have a bad seal here for some reason, we want to experience that with the gray water, not the black water. Okay, so I got no leakage there. I actually don't have much gray water in there. So we're good. I'm now going to go ahead and proceed and pull out the black tank. And we can hear this flushing.
And we're praying that it doesn't hit my foot.
All right, Amy's going to keep pressure on that. We're going to let it drain, and then at the very end, you might be tempted to think it's done, but we're going to actually lift this hose up here and just see. You can feel if there's additional stuff in here. In this case, we've got a pretty good incline, don't we, Amy? A pretty good angle.
I've never had better.
No, so I don't think we're going to have much here. Okay, now let's see.
Now, did you close that black valve?
No, I want to leave that black tank valve open. Critical point, because when we go to flush that black tank, if this is closed, where's that water going to go?
I think it's going to come out our toilet.
Possibly, yeah, we don't want that to happen. That's bad news. So the black valve is still open. Now I'm going to fully release the gray. And we've been pretty skimpy on the gray, so we really don't have much in there. You can hear some. The gray tank is smaller than the black here. But this is serving the purpose of somewhat washing out black tank matter. Okay, we're still going to flush it out with the hose, but okay, I think now we're ready for our flush.
Now, some of you may say, oh my God, they're using their drinking hose. That is not our drinking hose. I know it's the traditional drinking hose, but because we were taught first, before we had properly set up, this hose came with our unit. So this is now our septic hose, and we have a different solid blue hose for our drinking hose, potable water.
So the key thing here is to never mix those two hoses, right, for safety reasons.
Right. We know that this white one is for sewage.
Okay, and again, this is where I have this hooked. So I am hooking up to the black tank flush. What else is in here? City water connection. If I was hooked up to here, I would be benefiting from the pressure of the city water. It would be bypassing my fresh water tank. Given we're largely boondocking, right? This valve on the left here is where we are filling our fresh water tank, of course, with another hose. So we're ready now to go ahead and start the flush. I'm going to turn the camera around. Amy is actually multitasking. She's got a foot on the sewage hose, and she's going to turn on the water for the black tank flush.
And I will do yoga in between. Warrior pose.
And again, it's critical at this point that your black tank valve be open.
And what about our gray? Is that open also?
That is open also. All right, so that water is of course coming through here. We can hear it. It's venting over here.
Do not check at this point to see if that's clear.
Last two times I did this, I forgot to shut this panel. So I'm driving down the road and it's flapping, so not today.
So make sure you push it and turn the knob to seal it and lock it.
All right, what's the next step, Amy?
We're going to close the gray and the black handles.
Gray's closed. Black is closed.
Check.
Now I'm clear to unhook our sewage hose. I'm going to check one more time. Any more residual water in there? Let's keep this up. Okay, and now what we're going to do...
I'll turn on the spigot.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and rinse both the inside and outside of this hose off.
And again, my foot is on here. A lot of times you'll find a rock or something, but I'm using my foot.
You can move your foot here.
No way.
Get the outside. This is how the Camco Sidewinder folds up. It's going to go in the bag here with our wrench, with our hose, and with this rubber adapter here. That goes inside the bag.
The reason we have that, some of the campsites where we've been, the tops have been cracked, the hose will fall in indefinitely, and then you've dunked your hose in there, and it can get pretty gross, but that's like a little stopper and a wedge, and really it's very clean.
All right, now we're going to stuff this back inside the storage container, and I will tell you the clasp on here can be a little tricky. This is not a normal type of a clasp. So first of all, we actually want to close the valve itself, the container itself, with this lever. After that, we are going to pop that pin in there and make sure it's secure, right? And there we go, it's closed.
Then double check that you haven't left any belongings around.
Last thing, I'm going to put my cap back on, just like the sewage hose. And again, that's going to snap shut. You can feel it grab there.
Disinfect your hands with Germ-X or something, and that's
peeled
it.
Off, thrown away.
Piece
Easy
of cake.
peasy. One other easy hack you may have seen in our earlier video, we installed this expandable bar underneath here to provide a shelf when the couch seats up. It also allows me, when I pull the screen door down, to tie this off and just protect the inside. So to avoid any bugs, mosquitoes, flies in there while I have this back open, I can go ahead and do that. I think that's kind of a nice little feature of having that shelf underneath there. All right, so now we're going to fill our fresh water tank. We're going to fill it to the point it's overflowing. So the first thing we've done here, we have a similar bag as I showed you before, but in this case it's for the fresh water hose. This hose is only used for fresh water, and as you can see here, there is a filter here. We're going to not only filter at this end, but we have a zero gravity filter we use inside the van as well.
And we have a protector on this so it doesn't spill water inside. There's a male and a female end cap that you can get, and it does make it easier so water doesn't slosh in your back. We have a 4-foot white drinking water safe hose to go down so it takes the pressure off the pressure gauge. And then the water filter that we use is the Clear 2O, which gets down to 1 micron of safety instead of the other ones, which can be up to 20 or 40.
Okay, now I'm going to hook this up to the faucet here in a minute, but Amy, I'm going to ask you to tell the viewers here about the pressure. I think you recall the specs more than I, but it's important not to go past a certain PSI.
It's really recommended no more than 40, although with ours, we were told 25 is all you really need to have. And so if you can adjust that, have it go through the filter, it puts less strain on your systems. So we're recommending that. That was something on our Facebook group, and we're just adhering to it because our Facebook group, which is the CrossFit, Coachmen CrossFit, Beyonds and Gallerias, are
members and prospects.
They're an incredible group. So if you don't belong, join, and Dean, who is our fearless leader, will guide you in all things.
Now, if you're not sure how to regulate the pressure here, it's just simply done by how far you do or do not turn the faucet. So we're going to open this up. It'll take a minute to fill the hose. And our connection is a little loose, it looks like, on this end here. We'll go ahead and try to tighten that. No, we won't. Okay, so let's turn that down.
There you go. Yep, it's about
so
30.
We'll let that run right there.
Okay.
Now you can do two things, or three things, I suppose. You can look at your app. There is an app that shows you the fill tank level, although my experience so far has been nearly worthless. They're not very accurate. You can also eyeball the tank underneath. You can see the water line underneath here. This is the Coachmen Beyond 22C. Depending on your model, the water tank will be in a different area. But you can see right now, water line's about right here. Okay, and it is a slow fill. It does take a while. We're going to go ahead and with the magic of editing, we're going to go ahead and speed this up here until the point where the tank is overflowing, and that will come from the top. If you're wondering, this low point valve, I mentioned this on an earlier video, this is your drain valve. This is going to be important in the winterization process. So this is what I mean here. This is the app, right? And it, it does give you some indication. It's showing us 65% full. I believe another viewer said this maybe reads in like 5-degree increments here. We'll see if it goes ahead and changes here in a moment. But this is the app that we're using that comes with the Coachmen Beyond.
All right, as you can see, the water's coming out. Normally we wouldn't do that, but we wanted to show you that it does overflow if everything's working properly.
And listen, the first time we did this, this is one of these flat hoses. I'm not sure I would recommend this. It's a good length, but it kinks quite easily. So you want to make sure there are no kinks in your line. Once you have good flow, you can feel it. You can feel it going in there. And of course, that's when you want to make sure to check your pressure. So
I think you need at least 15 feet of a freshwater hose.
Yes.
Maybe, I mean, depending on the campsite, we've needed one a little bit longer than 10. So if you can find a 15 or 20, that's great.
It's amazing the variation in terms of the distance between this water, the non-potable water you use to clean your hose, and the dump station. These sometimes are at different lengths. So, I mean, yes, you could just move your vehicle, but it is nice to have a longer hose. Okay, and again, I just want to show you how inaccurate the Vega Touch app is here. Not impressed with these sensors. So it is showing 65% full, not 100%, not even anything close to 100%. We know that's the case, right? Because it just overflowed. Well, we haven't needed this yet, but this was advised to be something we purchased. It's called the Water Bandit. If the thread, on your hose, these things can get pretty gnarly, damaged. If it in fact is damaged, this allows you to still hook up to your hose, but it's just, it's almost like a adapter of sorts where you can still get a connection and get water in there.